Broadcasting from the heart of the continental United States and sailing the steel breeze of the World Wide Web, this is the Nexus. Shalom, all y'all happy people. Thank you once again for tuning in to our Thursday night biblical chat. James here, aka the Idol Smasher. At the Idol Smasher, buymeacoffee.com/the Idol Smasher. Chag Pesach Sameach. Happy Passover to all the Jewish folk out there who probably aren't watching this. They're probably enjoying some lovely matzah. This is a holiday. Why would Ben Noach, why would a Ger Noachide guy be talking about Pesach? Because biblically, the only people who can eat of the Passover offering are the Jewish people. This is not allowed. It's not a Ben Noach holiday. I mean, we can say, there's a late Passover, apparently, like a makeup meal that we're allowed to attend. But unless you've been circumcised and all your males in your household have been circumcised, it's not for you. You have to be Jewish to eat it. So and to take part in it. So what does it mean for the non-Jew? I'd say the non-Jew period, not just the Ben Noach or the Noachide or Ger Toshavim, whatever people want to call us this week, whatever has the less, rotten tomatoes thrown at you for saying it. It's just a word that if you've ever seen of Gods and was it Gods and Kings, Moses, Christian Bale is the one who played Moses, and he was frustrated. What do you want me to do? I'm doing all these plagues and nothing. What am I supposed to be doing? What do you want from me? And the angel shows up and just looks at him and says, "Watch." And that's what we do. You see, I'd say a good, 2/3 of the people who arrive at Sinai were not Jewish. They are of the mixed multitude. These are the people in Egypt who, one, survived, and two, wanted to get the hell out. For obvious reasons, but they knew darn well what was going on. Every Egyptian gave gold and silver to the Israelites for their journey. And a lot of people left with Israel. It wasn't 3 million Jews, it was 3 million people. We are witnesses, is what we are. Now, we're not having a 10 plague situation here in the modern world, are we? No 10 plagues here, no. We do have the miracle of Israel right now. I know we don't want to talk about Israel because that gets you, must be a Zionist. Happy Zionist right here. Cheers. Yeah, Zionism is cool because I think the Jews belong there. I also think that anybody taken away on the Indian Removal and Relocation Acts should also get their lands back. And it's not like it can't be done. I've lived in Oklahoma. Indians are quite civilized. They know their sums and everything. They know how to read and use power tools. I know a lot of people out there are scared of the idea of having engines, and it's not like anything's going to change, but they get their own courts. And that's how it should be. And they should get their lands back because they were wrongfully taken off of them. It was the most un-American thing America has ever done. I know we like to think, voting Obama, voting Trump, that has been the worst thing. The biggest catastrophe is the voter fraud. No, it was the Indian Removal and Relocation Acts, the absolute worst thing ever done by Americans. The most un-American, wrong thing you could ever do. Doesn't mean I'm an engine lover. I do love my engines, but doesn't mean I'm out here to, I'm here for a cause. I'm going to march. But it's a fact. When it comes to Israel, yes, I do love her, and it took a while, but they're kind of a part of me. I'm not exactly part of a congregation out here, but they mean a lot. And the very fact that they exist right now, the very fact that they're back in their lands and in control of that land tells you something right then and there. Before we get into some reading, because I kind of want to read the biblical portion this week. In the news recently, the state of Israel has allow the death penalty now for terrorists. And the European Union doesn't know what to make of it. They're very concerned that they're going to be able to kill people for murder. Oh, what are we going to do? Oh, it's just so wrong. How dare they? Every other country in that area, in my opinion, every other country should have the death penalty for murder, not accidental killing, not simple, accidental homicide. Homicide, spaz when you hear that word. It just means that you died by human way. You could have bumped into somebody and knocked them over a rake and went right in their heart or something. Who knows? That would be homicide. Doesn't mean it's murder. But when you're a terrorist, why shouldn't you get the death penalty? And why would anybody be upset about that? That's how bad off Europe is. I do hope we pull out of NATO. I think Europe needs to fall. I think Europe is full of crackpot wannabe human beings. Their governments are horrible. I'll give Poland a nod, and I'm going to give Switzerland a nod just because you make all your citizens get armed, and I'm going to give Hungary a nod because they try to run it like their country. But France, England, Britain, I should say, the whole of Britain, all y'all can go. Irish too, screw you. Germany, you're the worst. You're laughable. You are laughable. And frankly, we have our own problems to worry about than watching out for your sorry butts. So that's not quite biblical study, is it? It's not quite. But it was on my mind. And I'm certainly glad that we're over there doing what we're doing. It needed to be done. It was going to happen. And for those of you who are upset that we're in there and we're doing what we're doing in Iran, I want to remind you of something. We helped create that monster. Obama and Biden both gave them shed loads of money. And what do they do with it? Bomb that out of the Jews. Now, I know all the libertarians out there will cream their jeans at the thought of dead Jews. I mean, if there's anybody I've found, any group that hates Jews more than Republicans and Democrats, it's libertarians. They are the worst. They're the worst. The only one who's libertarian minded who doesn't have to trash Jews is Rand Paul. Thomas Massey couldn't even help it. And that's going to come back on us as a country. We helped make that mess. I mean, we've been helping make it for a longer time than those two presidents, but those two are in recent days very responsible. That monster is by our making partially. And so we have to clean up our mess. And that's exactly what we're doing. I hope. I don't want that regime. I want regime change. I want to wipe out that regime that's in there, exterminate anybody who gives one iota of sympathy. You exterminate them in that country. And anybody else, you let them do what they want to do. They can have their Shah, their prince. They can do whatever they want to do. Get out. Let them run their own country. Let them clean up their own mess. Because although they've been used as part of the government that those poor Persians were used, they went along with it for way too friggin' long. You did nothing about it for 47 friggin' years. You're going to have to clean up your own mess because we've been cleaning up y'all's mess for quite a while. And there doesn't need to be this anymore. There doesn't need to be it. Just about every other Muslim bunch in the world doesn't want to wipe out the Jews anymore. It's over. It's that is over. And I think it's over for war. It's coming. The end of war is coming. I know that's going to make a lot of people really sad, but the end of war is on its way. And that's just the beginning. That's just the start of what's going to happen to us. We are going to finally evolve again because we are a evolved species. We've been that way since Eden. One of the great teachings in Genesis is that we are devolved. We are not what God intended, if you will. I hate to say it like that. It's not like God intended, but we are not the final product. So, why all the talk of America? Why all this freedom stuff? Because on Passover and whatnot, I could talk about this all day anyway. It's the news and it's what's going on. It's what's on my mind. Aside from my birthday, shout out to my little girl out there, my big girl now. We had a little birthday celebration, some chocolate cake, and got some neat toys and some cool stuff. But other than that, Pesach is probably one of the most, if not the most, anti-slavery story, remembrance, ceremony in all of the world. You're not going to find a more potent tale. Even if you don't believe it's true, just read it. I'm going to go through it here, starting with Exodus chapter 12, verse 21. And you'd be surprised. Just remember how this goes, though, as far as plagues and what's been going on when we get up to this right now, and how we're supposed to keep. Remember, not we, but Israel is supposed to, remember the Passover. But I just want you to consider each plague to be representative as what was done to the Hebrew slaves. What was the first plague? Turned the Nile into blood. Oh, parlor trick, right? Oh, well, that's spooky because it's all blood now. But no, that's the blood of the Hebrews coming back up. That's the first reminder. This is what's going to happen to you. This is the culmination right here. Throwing live babies into crocodile-infested waters. Again, libertarians, I don't mean this is porn for you. I'm sorry. You might want to turn it off because there's a lot of violence that happens against Jews, coming up to Passover, and I'm sure that makes you people happy. The Jews have had to live in other people's land for a long time, but they remained a nation. They still remain their own nation. They weren't broken. They required no exodus anymore. This was the big one. Now we're getting the exact opposite of exodus. We're getting everybody back to the land. I guess it's an exodus from the nations. Okay. Well, we got 50% over there right now. We need to get them numbers up, baby. We need to get them numbers up. Jew, go home. I love you. Go home. Get out of here. Leave the United States. You will do no good here. Anything you do good will be covered up by two things bad. That's the way we are here. Get out. Go home where you belong. Let's move on with it. You want to stay here and go to college? Go to college in Israel. Make Israel great, big, and strong again. That already is. They got God on their side. And they're not getting wiped out. Of all the things, they just can't die. They can't get pushed off this land. How many wars? 30, 40? I don't even know. I've seen a list, and how many actual wars? I think some might consider them battles, but how many times? And they're still there. They're still there, and they're not going. They're still prospering. You see pictures of people in Israel right now, and yeah, they got some PTSD going on right now. There's some shell shock a little bit, but they're living their lives. Right now, they're eating matzah. They've been celebrating Passover. They had the Seder last night. It doesn't stop them, and they're not going to stop. They are a miracle in and of themselves. You don't need anything else. Just them being there is a miracle. Their survival is the miracle. You want to know the real miracle of Exodus? The fact that the Jews survived. The fact that they were Hebrews after the event. We could chalk it all up to the Santorini volcano. That's fine. Jacoby, what's his name? Exodus Decoded, with that the eruption of the Santorini, that would affect everywhere in the region. And it explains everything, but still, the fact that the Hebrews got there, got out of it alive, and thrived is a miracle. They are the miracle. They say, be the miracle. Well, let God take care of the miracles. You be good. All right, let's just, I want to read, it's just a few sections here. We're going to start out with Exodus chapter 12, verse 21. Here we go. Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and told them to instruct the Israelites as follows. Draw yourselves away from idolatry. Get for your families lambs or kids from your flocks, or acquire them for yourselves in the market on the 14th of Nisan. That's the month we're in, the biblical month we're in. Slaughter the Passover offering. This is not a sin offering. It's not a meal offering. It's not a peace offering. It's a one-of-a-kind offering. I don't think any other time is an offering given where it's not given at the temple. It's not given at the Mishkan. It's not given at an altar. You must take a bundle of 3 stalks of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is collected in the basin, and use it to apply some of the blood in the basin to the lintel and the 2 doorposts. None of you may go out of the entrance of his house until morning. God will pass through Egypt to strike the firstborn of Egypt. He will see the blood on the lintel and the 2 doorposts. God will mercifully pass over the entrance to your houses and not allow the destructive plague to enter your houses to strike you. You must observe the practices of Passover as a rule for you and your children forever. What does God say? Forever. What's the church say? Doesn't matter. God says forever. God did not undo this. God did not undo anything in Torah. Ever. It never gets undone. Ever. I believe in the word of God, but when God says forever, well, we don't mean forever. We don't need to be doing that anymore. Grumble. You must maintain this service only once you have come into the land that God will give you as he has spoken. When your children ask you, what is this service of yours? You must answer, it is the Passover offering to God, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when he plagued the Egyptians and spared our homes. The people bowed down and prostrated themselves. The Israelites went and did so just as God instructed Moses and Aaron. Moses and Aaron did so as well. It was at midnight that God struck down every firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, as well as every firstborn animal. Pharaoh rose in the night, he, all his courtiers, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great outcry in Egypt, for there was no house where there was not someone dead. He called out for Moses and Aaron in the night and said, get up and get out from among my people, you and the children of Israel too, and go and serve God as you said. Take both your flocks and your cattle, just as you stipulated, and go, and bless me too. The Egyptians also urged the people on, hurrying them out of the land, for they said, we are all dying. The people took their dough before it had leavened, with their leftover food wrapped in their clothes on their shoulders. The Israelites did as Moses had said, and requested silver and gold utensils and clothing from the Egyptians. God granted the people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians, so they loaned them these items, giving them more than they asked for. They thus drained Egypt of its wealth. The Israelites journeyed from Ramesses to Sukkot. They numbered about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. This would also not include elderly and women. Moreover, a mixed multitude went up with them, as well as flocks and cattle, a great deal of livestock. The Israelites baked the dough that they had brought out of Egypt into cakes of matzah, since it had not leavened, for they had been driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared for any other provisions for themselves. The length of time that the Israelites had lived in Egypt and other locales was 430 years. And at the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the hosts of God left Egypt. The night preceding this day was a night of expectation for God to take them out of Egypt. This was the night that God referred to when he said, on this night I will redeem your descendants. This night remains an annual time of protection for all the Israelites throughout their generations. God said to Moses and Aaron, this is the law of all the Passover sacrifice. No stranger to God may eat of it. It is not ours as outside of Israel. This is their holiday. I mean, I don't mean that wrongly, but it truly is. This is about them and their forefathers. A continual remembrance. If there be a non-Jewish bondman who a Jewish man buys for money, you must circumcise him, and then he may eat of it. Neither the resident alien nor a non-Jewish hired laborer may eat of it. It must be eaten by a single group. You must not take any of the meat out of the group or break any of its bones. The entire community of Israel will offer it up. When a convert living among you offers up the Passover sacrifice, all the males in his household must be first circumcised, and only then may he draw near to offer it up. He will be just like a native citizen. No uncircumcised man may eat of it. This doesn't mean because you were circumcised on your birthday, on your birth date, when you were born, that doesn't count. You weren't circumcised in the covenant. You just don't get it doesn't work like that. You weren't circumcised unless you were circumcised under the covenant. You're Jewish, you don't have to worry about it. But for the rest of us who weren't circumcised on the 8th day as part of the covenant with God, then we aren't considered circumcised. In fact, when you get circumcised, at least one drop of blood must be drawn from the area. Only until 100 years ago, the only people who ever had that done were Jews. That's it. Nobody on the planet was circumcised, ever. That was a Jewish thing. There must be one law for the native Israelite and for the convert who lives among you, the ger. The ger, hager. A ger is a convert because he takes upon himself the Torah and keeps the 7 laws. All the Israelites did as God instructed Moses and Aaron, and Moses and Aaron did so also. It was on that very same day that God took the Israelites out of Egypt with all their hosts. We're entering into the 2nd day of Passover. So we're going to read out of Vayikra, Leviticus. This is chapter 22, 26. There's a link down below. I'm not sure if we're on YouTube at the moment. It was having a difficult time link up to it. X, I'm not sure if we're there as well, but if not, and you're watching on Rumble, you rock. You're my favorite viewer. That's all I'm going to say. God spoke to Moses, saying, when a work bull, sheep, or goat is born, it must remain in its mother care for 7 days. It will be accepted as a sacrifice for a fire offering to God only from the 8th day forward. With regard to a work bull or sheep or goat, you must not slaughter it and its offspring on the same day. When you slaughter a Thanksgiving feast offering to God, you must slaughter it such that it attain my favor for you. In other words, i.e., with the intention that it be eaten on that day. Do not leave it over until morning. I am God. You must safeguard my commandments and perform them. I am God. You must not desecrate my holy name, that I may be sanctified among the Israelites. I am God, who sanctifies you and who took you out of Egypt in order to be your God. I am God. God spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the Israelites and say to them, with regard to God's appointed holy days, it is about the ones that will designate as designated holy occasions that God will say, these are my appointed holy days. During a 6-day period of each week, work may be performed, but on the 7th day there must be a complete day of rest, a holy occasion. You must not perform any work on it. It is a Sabbath to God in all your dwelling places. The following are God's appointed days, i.e., the designated holy occasions that you will designate to be such in their appointed time. In the afternoon of the 14th day of the 1st month, you must offer up the Passover sacrifice to God. On the 15th day of that month begins the festival of Matzos, in honor of God. For a 7-day period, you must eat matzos. Matzah's unleavened bread. In fact, Jews can't have anything leavened in their house. And there's a lot of great jokes about you just, put aluminum foil over everything until Passover. But but they will go and make sure no crumbs ever are anywhere in the house. It's a complete cleansing. Why? Because yeast is a form of decay. You know what I mean? It's a death food. Beer is something else that is leaven, that is yeast. Yeast is this is about a decaying, a fermenting thing. None of that can be allowed anywhere in the house. You must celebrate the first day as a holy occasion on which you must not perform any mundane work. You must bring a fire offering to God for a 7-day period. You must celebrate the seventh day as a holy occasion on which you must not perform any mundane work. God spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites and say to them, When you enter the land that I am giving you and you reap its harvest, you must bring an omer of barley as the beginning of your harvest and give it to the priest. He must wave this omer before God in order to attain God's favor for you. The priest must wave it on the day after the day of rest. On the day you wave the omer of barley, you must offer up an unblemished lamb in its first year as an ascent offering to God. Its grain offering must be 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour with oil offered up as a fire offering pleasing to God. Its libation must be a quarter of a hin of wine. Pardon me. You must not eat bread, oven parched kernels, or fresh kernels until this very day, i.e., until you bring your God's sacrifice. This is an eternal rule throughout your generations and in all your places of residence. There's that word again, eternal. You know what? When God says something, he means it. Imagine that. Imagine that. You don't have to have a religion that makes excuses for not keeping God's word while saying they believe in it. You know? God says forever, he means it. Silly, isn't it? Isn't that just silly? It's not much of a religion if that's the way, is it? Starting on the day after the day of rest, i.e., from the day you bring the omer of barley as a wave offering, you must count for yourselves 7 weeks. These weeks must be complete. You must count, this is counting the omer. You must count until the day after the 7th week, 50 days on which you must bring a grain offering to God from the new crop. You must bring bread set aside from the land in which you dwell, 2 loaves made from 2/10 of an ephah. They must be of fine flour, and they must be baked leavened. This will be the first grain offering of wheat brought to God. Along with the bread, you must bring 7 unblemished lambs in the first of their year, 1 young bull, and 2 rams. These must be ascent offerings to God, accompanied by their grain offering and libations, offered up with the intention that they be fire offerings and that are pleasing to God. You must offer up 1 he-goat as a sin offering and 2 lambs in their first year as a peace-promoting feast offering. The priest must wave them together with the first offering bread as a wave offering before God, specifically the 2 lambs. They will be holy to God, given to the priest. You must designate this very day as a holy occasion which you must celebrate and on which you must not perform any mundane work. This is an eternal rule in all your dwelling places and throughout all your generations. Eternal rule, is it? Eternal again. Tell me again how this no longer applies. When you reap the harvest of your land, you must not fully reap the corner of your field during your harvesting, nor may you gather up the gleanings of your harvest. You must leave these for the poor person and for the convert, the ger. I am God, your God. God spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites, saying, You must celebrate the first day of the 7th month as a day of rest, a remembrance of the shofar blast, a holy occasion. You must not perform any mundane work, and you must offer up a fire offering to God. God said to Moses, saying, But you must celebrate the 10th of this 7th month as a day of atonement, a holy occasion. You must afflict yourselves, and you must offer up a fire offering to God. You must not perform any work on this day itself, for it is a day of atonement. By the way, this is Yom Kippur, reserved for effecting atonement for you before God, your God. For any person who neglects to be afflicted on this day itself will be cut off from his people. Regarding any person who performs any work on this day itself, I will cause that person to be lost from among his people. You must not perform any work. This is an eternal rule which will not apply throughout your generations and in all your dwelling places. It must be a complete day of rest for you, and you must afflict yourselves. You must observe your day of rest on the 9th month of the month in the late afternoon. On the 9th of the month in the late afternoon. from that afternoon until the end of the following afternoon. This is why Jews fast. Verse 33. God spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites, saying, On the 15th day of this 7th month of the festival of Sukkot, a 7-day period devoted to God. The first day is a holy occasion on which you must not perform any mundane work. For a 7-day period, you must bring a fire offering to God. You must celebrate the 8th day as a holy occasion, and you must bring a fire offering to God. It is a day of restriction. You must not perform any mundane work on it. These are God's appointed holy days that you must designate as holy occasions on which to offer up fire offerings to God, as scent offerings, grain offerings, and feast offerings, as well as wine libations, each day's requirement on its day. All this apart from God's Sabbaths and apart from your sacrificial gifts, all your sacrificial vows, and all your sacrificial dedications that you must give to God. However, you must offer up a festival peace offering to God on the 15th day of the seventh month, when you gather in the produce of the land for a 7-day period. The first day must be a day of rest, and the 8th day must be a day of rest. On the first day, you must take hold for yourselves of a fruit of the citron tree, which stays on the tree more than 1 year, one date palm frond, braided branches of a myrtle bush, and 2 branches of a willow tree that grows next to a brook. You must rejoice before God, your God, for a 7-day period. You must celebrate it as a festival to God for 7 days in the year. It is an eternal rule applicable throughout your generations that you celebrate it in the 7th month. And yet you have religions out there who will say, oh, they did away with all that. Oh, what's his face did away with that. Muslims would be like, oh, that's just perversion. You must live in huts for this 7-day period, Sukkot. Every native among the Israelites must live in huts in order that your ensuing generations know that I figuratively had the Israelites live in huts, i.e., the clouds of glory, when I took them out of Egypt. I am God, your God. Moses told the Israelites the laws of God's appointed holy days. Now we're reading this. Passover was the first day given to the Israelites. Some say that, I've heard it said that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they all knew Shabbat. That's not mentioned anywhere. But this was the day that began everything. The Passover event. That's what started everything. And from Passover forward is when we begin to get the days. Even before we get to Sinai, Moses told everybody, you have to rest on the 7th day. He was saying that to everybody. The mixed multitude, the Israelites, on Shabbat, they had to rest. And that was his commandment until we get to Sinai, and then God commands, the entire nation. This was freedom. This is a nation. This is a national event. It wasn't the freeing of one man or 2 men, and it was justice. It was pure, painful justice. But for everything they did to the Israelites, where it was make them hold their candles while they ate, while they gave hard labor, killing the firstborn. It all comes back to them. He could have, Pharaoh could have, he's like, get out, fine, get out. But then God hardened his heart. Why? Because Pharaoh's weak, not very Jewish. See, if he were Jewish, he could hack it. But we only got 3 plagues. Let him go, let him go. He's like, no, 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 no. You ain't done paying yet, Pharaoh, Paro. You ain't done yet. And neither is Egypt, because Egypt allowed it. Kind of like what's coming to us. We've allowed a great evil to grow and fester in our midst here in America. And as many blessings as God has given to us, He's going to make us pay too. He's going to make us pay. He will remember that we stood against Iran, and he'll see that we've have many reasons to be blessed, but we've got a few curses coming too. Freedom, liberty, proclaim liberty in your land. When everybody left, they were equal. No man was greater than another. That was the first time any of those people had ever lived like that. 430 years. And now everybody was equal. Everybody was equally poor. But everybody was equal. Yeah, they drained Egypt of wealth, but it was the beginning of a free, self-sustaining nation, the first in history. So Baruch Hashem for the story, Baruch Hashem for its teachings to us. There's a lot more to learn, a lot more to read about the event. Chabad.org, as you go to learning and values, you can go to the Parsha readings. There's a neat article about the paradox of or the Pharaoh paradox. I was going to read it, but we're getting a little farther down the road. So I just want to leave you with a wish that you get closer to your Creator out there. If you don't believe that you can pray to God directly without through a medium or throughout the teachings of one man, just try it. I can guarantee it's not going to cause you problems. And unless you shout it in a public place or, but ask God, can I talk to you directly? Am I wrong for wanting to talk to you one-on-one, for approaching you without the need for not even a prayer book? And be respectful. Would you be respectful to your father? Imagine how much more respectful you would be to your creator or your creator's creator. You'd be good to mom and dad. Well, talk to God with reverence and honesty. You'd be real surprised. You'd be real surprised what comes out. And again, I've said it before. If you want to prove that God's real and you don't know and you don't want to know, give charity. Give charity for His sake. You'd be real surprised what happens. You'll be real surprised. At The Idol Smasher, buymeacoffee.com/The Idol Smasher, Orphans of Avraham on Facebook. I set this thing up as an opportunity for people to come in and have a conversation. Nobody wants to have a conversation Thursday nights anymore. So I might just begin to do these little Thursday meetings as just some information. We'll read a little bit and then I'll let you go. And not really count on folks coming in and putting links out and trying to keep things level-headed or the story level-headed or the always waiting for someone to come in and keep it open. Sometimes we just got to move on to a different format. And folks still watch, folks still listen, and I thank you. The only people who really respond are people saying, hey, just came across your video, and they put it in the comment section, right? They put it in the like they're advertised. They couldn't message me directly. Just saw your video. Great work. And what now is you need someone to spruce it up and make it spicy and more polished. And I do this and I do it for free. I've gotten about 7 or 8 of those and I delete them every time. So if you're watching and you want to recommend your service to me, you can contact me directly, or please, I'll just keep deleting your stuff. I'm not going to have you up there. If I really wanted to have more zhush, I would have more zhush. I can't have more zhush. I'm too busy. I work for a living. I work hard for a living. So it's difficult. It's difficult to get out there. But again, thank you for tuning in and thank you for watching and keep the 7, keep the faith. And let's do what we can to prepare this world for His presence. Make it a better world. Heal the world. Make it a better place for you and for me and for the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and me. Michael Jackson. Stay strong, Nigerians. I know what's going on over there. My heart goes out to you. Stay strong, Israel. I'm not sure you're going to have that problem these days, though. Stay strong, Persia. Maybe we can get the that crazy bunch of godless mothers out of your country. I hope so. If we can't do it, we've started it. I think you need to remove them. Removing them from this earth would be better, in my opinion. But you need to at least get them out of Iran. Shabbat shalom. Happy Passover. Peace, folks. Be well. We'll see you next week.